Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm so happy to be here today. And let me firstly introduce myself. My name is Irina Barkanova. I've been working as the director of studies in an English school in Moscow called Smart Education. I'm an English teacher and a psychologist. Today, we are going to talk about burnout, and not just the burnout itself, but how to identify your students' burnout and what to do with it. I will tell you about certain things that we can influence and certain techniques that you can use to prevent burnout. Here you can see our today's plan. We will discuss lesson planning and how it will help you to deal with students' burnout, how to give right feedback, and how to set accurate goals, again, to prevent students' burnout.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
And to begin with, I would like to ask you, what is a burnout? Here, please stop the video for about a moment, maybe a minute or two, and think, how would you feel in those gaps? And here we are. As you can see, burnout, it is exhaustion, mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion. And we face burnout because of repeated stress. According to Herbert Freudenberg, it is an American psychologist who studied burnout. It can be defined by three components. The first one is emotional exhaustion, the second one is depersonalization, and the third one is decreased sense of accomplishment. I would like to give you examples of those things. Emotional exhaustion, it is when your student loses motivation and nothing makes him happy. He just doesn't react to anything. Depersonalization is about lack of empathy and lack of caring. His teacher is angry because he didn't do his homework. That's not important. One of your group mates has a problem, or he or she is sad. That again doesn't play any role for you. You just simply do not feel anything. And about the decreased sense of accomplishment, that's when a student gets, let it be 100% for a test, but he doesn't feel happy at all. So whatever he does doesn't make him happy, and he doesn't feel any certain emotions about that. And here it is very important to understand that burnout happens because of stress. And we all must know the basics, how to deal with stress. It is all about completing the cycle. If you think that when a stressful situation is over, stress is over, it's not true. We must know that to feel okay, to feel fine, to release stress, we must complete the cycle. Yeah, we know that how it all begins, like student feels stressed because, well, let it be the teacher is angry at him at school, for example, and he feels this tension in his muscles, but then, well, teacher stops this communication, but stress doesn't go anywhere. Your muscles or student's muscles are still tense, and he must do something about it, or you should do if it's about your situation. Well, usually, what can we do? It's about doing sport, laughing, crying. Well, I guess no surprises here, yeah? Like doing creative activities and so on. Here, it is very important to understand where our responsibility ends, we are teachers. We can't be responsible for everything that happens with students outside the classroom, but we are responsible for what is going on in the classroom. And this is what we're going to focus on today. How to identify students' burnout. This website, at the slide, you can see, well, various markers that can show that your student is going on difficult period, and it might be burnout. It's about exhaustion when your student is always or almost always tired, when he was motivated, but now he isn't and he doesn't want to do anything. It's about emotions. He can be angry quite often, or he wants to cry all the time, can be so as well. It's also about making careless mistakes. So when a student knows how to use present simple, for example, for sure, but he still makes such mistakes. And of course, it's about lack of concentration. And what I want to say here is that, well, I guess almost all teenagers sometimes can be characterized like that, right? When we're talking about burnout, it means that these markers are persistent. So you can see, well, at least 2 or 3 of them for a long period of time. And mostly here, I'm talking about students who were active, were motivated, were interested, but now something happened. Once again, what is our responsibility as teachers? And the first thing is creative, safe environment in a classroom. Here I have a question. Are you sure that all your comments are safe? Or do you ever say something like, oh, Masha, you didn't do your homework again? That's not a surprise for me. Guys, the first step to a safe environment is to be taken by us. We must mind what we say. And this is the first step towards this environment in the classroom when students feel relaxed, and they feel that they are a part of the group, and they feel safe, and they are ready to share, they are ready to speak. It is very important. Later on, I will give you a tool that we use at our school to create the safe environment as well, because it's not only about our speech, but it's also about behavior of other students in the classroom. The second thing is, well, surprisingly, is lesson planning. How to plan and engage in lesson. Because when teachers from my school ask me how to motivate student or what to do with a student when he doesn't want to work or when he lost his interest, the first thing that we do is analyzing the lesson plan. And I will focus today on 4 main things that can be changed in a lesson plan, and it will help your students to overcome, well, let's say, negative emotions and not to face burnout when it comes to your lessons. Then it is about giving feedback appropriately, because I think there is no doubt that feedback is a powerful thing. And with the right feedback, we can boost confidence. And I mean that our students will feel more confident because of the right feedback. And of course, we can ruin their confidence too, and they will lose interest in studying. Last but not least is about setting right goals, because unfortunately, students pretty often do not know how to set goals appropriately. And if you as a teacher didn't set the goal in the right way, then the student might feel that he has no progress, or that he doesn't do enough because, well, he is a perfectionist and he wants to do everything perfectly. So it influences their mental stability as well. And by setting right goals, we again help our students to avoid burnout. So to be more precise, safe environment. Here you can see the picture. This is a picture of our rules. I mean, rules that hang on every on the walls or in every room that is in our school. And as you can see, this is not about studying itself, like doing homework or what. This is about people rules, rules that help us create this safe environment. What is important here? If you just show the rules to the students and say, guys, these are our rules, please do that. It doesn't work this way. We introduce those rules at the beginning of the school year, and all our students sign them. This way, they feel that they agreed to behave this way, and it is very important. The second step is to create class rules. And I would say that this is also a team building activity, because what we do, well, in a group, we separate students into like 3 or 4, like depends on the amount of students, groups, so that they can work together, and give them about 10 minutes to think what kinds of rules they would like to have at our school. And we do not well, they can write whatever they want to, even something like, we want to eat a cake every lesson. Why not? They can write such a rule. Then the second step, we write those rules on the board, and then students vote for them. Of course, well, we also vote for the rules. And how to vote? It can be done with stickers or with like markers. They can draw a tick or something else next to the rule. Here, of course, your vote is the most important, because, well, still you are responsible for this class. And if you do not agree with the rule that you must buy a cake every lesson, then sorry, but you delete this rule. And this way, you choose about 10 rules that you're going to follow this school year. And again, students sign them. This way, they feel that they are a part of the group. They feel that they can influence, well, they can influence at least something, yeah? Don't want to say something, but they are responsible for what is going on here, yeah? Because they participated in this activity, and they have chosen those rules for their classroom, for their class. I mean, for the group mates, right? And of course, they signed them. If students do not follow any of the rules during the school year, you can also always show them this picture and say, guys, you remember what we decided to do this year? Yeah, please don't forget about that. And surprisingly, it works. It works if it is done this way, that students create the rules together, and it creates safe environment in a group.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
Now about lesson planning. First, the first very important thing is to vary lesson pace. We shouldn't forget that we live in a very fast changing world, and that our students are used to changes. They play video games quite a lot. They use the phones. They are used to all this stimuli that happens every day in their lives. And if they a part of your group, and your lessons are the same every time, and the lesson pace is the same every time, that is simply boring, and they may lose interest in studying too. How to vary lesson pace? Well, the first thing that you can do is about activities that you do at the lesson with your students. For example, you can set the timer, and students work in mini groups, and in 3 minutes they must do something. Let's say write as many words related to clothes as possible. This is a fast activity. So they're working together, there is a timer. Then after such an activity, there is an activity that must be done individually. Let's say read a text or write something down or do, well, any vocabulary exercise, yeah, that is also about clothing, because we shouldn't forget that all the components of the lesson must be linked with each other. And then there is again a fast activity like debates or something, when it can be with a timer or without a timer, but the students again work together, and well, it is more active than an individual one. And it works. And quite often students do not feel the time, and at the end of the lesson, they just like, they're surprised and they ask like, wow, this is the end of the lesson. So fast. Try this out. The second thing is to vary language presentation. And again, it's about the structure. And here it depends on the age of students, because don't get me wrong, the structure of the lesson can be the same. And for young learners, it must be pretty much the same, because if at one moment you decide to change everything, they will feel not safe, because they are used to certain activities and now you've changed everything. And here we go to the first, thing that were discussed is the safe environment. But the ways you present language, the way you explain grammar, the way you give your words, the way you practice them, they should be different. And again, it's about interest of students in your lesson. The next thing that pretty often teachers forget about is error correction. That error correction is not simply about, well, saying what was wrong and what the right answer was. There can be various error correction techniques. And if you use different, then your students, again, they are not bored, they are engaged, and they are not waiting for the right answer from you. They know that there might be a peer correction or echo correction or something else. So building variety as much as possible, but again, depending on the age and level of your students. And the last thing that, well, to be honest, I mentioned that already when we discussed the lesson pace, but if you vary interaction patterns, it works. Your students are not bored, they are engaged. Plus, they have an opportunity to talk to all the students in the group, because, well, you change the partners and so on from time to time. So to sum up, building in variety is the key these days, because modern teenagers are used to variety. And not only teenagers, young learners too, kids are used to variety. And don't forget about building it in your lessons, please. At this slide, you can see my personal lesson plan and checklist. We're not going to discuss it like in detail. I just wanted to share it with you. I look at this checklist before I go to my to my groups, and minimizing TTT, teacher talking time, is just a reminder for me that I shouldn't talk a lot, while teaching. The next important thing is giving feedback. And when we hear the word feedback, I guess that the first thing that comes to our mind is that we usually give feedback about the language used, yeah? But as you can see, there is quite a huge table, so you might, again, stop this video for a moment and think, what kind of feedback can I or do I give to my students? It can be a feedback about the language. And please don't forget that feedback is not just to correct mistakes, and feedback must not always be just negative. Feedback should be positive and negative. Unfortunately, teachers forget about positive feedback, and usually they just, well, maybe not usually, but pretty often they, after, let's say, checking an essay, they just write down what student must be focused on more or what to pay attention to. And they use the same words like good job, well done, good job, well done. Building variety here too. About the language, yes, you can say that, wow, this time you used the tenses correctly. Keep it up. Feedback may focus on skills of a student, like you can say that maybe, yeah, the student made mistakes in tenses, but he didn't hesitate while answering the questions, and that's great, isn't it? It can focus on ideas of the student that, yeah, even though he made some mistakes or a lot of mistakes in grammar, his ideas were very creative. It can focus on behavior. Let's say that the student this time didn't interrupt his group mates, and it was an amazing effort. Say about that. And of course, about progress. This is what we from time to time forget as well, saying like, look, last week or last month or 2 months ago, you asked me, let's say, for help quite a lot. Today you did it all by yourself. Perfect. And I decided not to fill in the last square, and you can think what kind of feedback you can also give to your students, because it's not the end, there are just some of the ideas. And I guess everybody knows about such a technique as feedback sandwich, that if you wanna say something to your student, it's a good idea to begin with something positive, then give constructive feedback, and then reaffirm your positive comment, right? Here you can see an example of such a feedback. The last thing that we're going to talk about today is the right goal setting. And again, I think that everybody knows what a SMART goal means, but unfortunately, well, teachers still forget how to do that appropriately. When you set a goal like, guys, we must focus on writing essays, and by the end of the month, you should all write great essays, it's not a SMART goal, really. What means a great essay? It means that I use the right amount of words, or that I use linking words, or that I use grammar that was in that course book. What does that mean? So goals must be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So next time you can say that, okay, look, by the end of this month, you should be able to write an essay like from 120, 100 to 150 words with the right amount of paragraphs, let's say, and be able to use at least 5 or 6 linking words appropriately. And then it is a SMART goal. You can measure it, and the student understands what to do. And then you work out what his next steps would be to achieve this goal. Don't forget about the theory of small steps taken. And of course, one more thing we shouldn't forget about is ZPD by Lev Vygotsky. All students are different, even if they have pretty much the same level. Still, goal of one student will be to use paragraphs appropriately. But for another one, it would be to focus on linking words, or to write a shorter paragraph, because writing 150 words is too much for him. And for him, the next step would be to write like a composition, 80 or 100 words. Don't forget about that all students are different and ZPD is different. One more thing that personally I use with my students is goal setting with metaphorical cards, because, well, you know, when we ask about something, student might answer, or you can work out the solution together, but it works even better, if I can say easier, when there is a card that he can describe. For example, as I said about writing an essay, here you can ask your student to choose a card that shows him preparing for FC, how he feels about this exam preparation, how he feels about taking FC this year. Will he choose this card, and will he say that he is terrified because he feels that he is not good enough speaking, listening, reading, well, that he has a lot of work to do and you will work it out together? Or he will say that, well, he is not alone on this boat because he has his group mates and they all have a goal, and he believes that together they can do that. And this way, Firstly, you will understand what student is afraid about, and secondly, it may help you to set his personal goals for this month, this week, or this year. You can Google for certain techniques that you can use for goal setting, because there are hundreds of thousands of them. I decided to choose you the easiest one. And by the way, these are not metaphorical cards. I used Imaginarium, and I did it on purpose. I wanted to outline that for such an activity, you can use not special metaphorical cards, but simply Imaginarium.
Хотите постоянно развиваться в преподавании иностранных языков? Школа Дмитрия Никитина проводит образовательные тренинги, конференции и курсы для преподавателей. Подробности о событиях можно узнать по ссылке в описании.
To sum up, I hope that now you understand that burnout can be identified and conquered. I hope that you understood that teachers can't be responsible for everything that is happening with a student, but we are responsible for what is going on in the classroom. And for that very reason, mind your lesson planning and ask your director of studies for help. Don't forget about giving feedback, and that it should be positive and it shouldn't be the same lesson like every lesson. And that setting the goals is the key too. Because if you set the goals in the right way, your student knows what to do, and he knows what means achievement for him. And achievements can be different because ZPD is different, and goals for students are different too, even if they are the same group. Thank you very much for your attention. Here you can see QR codes, my Telegram and my Telegram channel. Thank you.